Good afternoon, everyone. A really warm welcome to our Detroit School Board candidates, all of our viewers, and our wonderful moderators. I'm Lori Higgins. I'm the Bureau Chief at Chalkbeat Detroit. We are a nonprofit news organization specializing in covering education with a particular focus on inequities in education. We are really happy to be co-hosting this candidate forum with WDET 101.9 FM, Detroit's NPR station. As an education journalist for more than 20 years, I think school board elections are a really crucial part of our civic process. School board members and the work they do have the potential to change a child's education or shape a child's education and experience in school. And that's especially important right now in the wake of a pandemic that has disrupted education everywhere. Tonight, you'll get a chance to hear from many of the people who are running to fill 4 seats on the Detroit School Board. I'm really looking forward to hearing your thoughts. But first, some ground rules and info for the candidates. Because we have so many of you, we are breaking this forum into two 45-minute panel discussions. We will have a short intermission between those panels. We have two types of questions. There are several meaty questions, which you'll have 60 seconds to answer, and several rapid fire questions, which are designed to get quick responses. You'll have 30 seconds for those. We will then open it up for audience questions. You'll have 60 seconds to answer those questions. Candidates, we ask that you keep your answers concise. Our timekeeper will jump in when your time is up and say, time. This is your cue to stop or wrap up really, really quickly. We'll ask the panelists the same questions in each panel, with the exception of the audience questions, which might change from one panel to the next. Our questions mirror what we heard from those of you who registered for this event. For audience members, feel free to pop questions into the Q&A function of the Zoom meeting. Now I'm going to introduce our moderators who will take us through the forum. We have Ethan Bakuli, who covers Detroit School District for Chalkbeat. And we also have Hafiza Khalik, a senior at Cass Tech and a community organizer. Take it away, you guys.
Thank you, Lori. So we're going to get this panel started by introducing the first group of candidates we have. Richard Clement is a retired educator. Candidate Patrice Douglas apologizes she was unable to make it tonight due to being sick. Following that is Deborah Hunter Harville. Is an incumbent. She is a retired educator who spent her career as a teacher and operates Hunter Harville Educational Associates. Lamar Lemons is the chief of staff for a state senator. He is also a former member of the Detroit School Board. Jamal Muhammad is a former second grade teacher in the district who now works as an attendance agent. Ida Simmons Short is an educator and a former Detroit School Board member. John Talford is a DPSCD poet and resident. He's been an educator for 66 years and served as district superintendent during emergency management. And lastly, Coletta Vaughn is an incumbent. She's a bishop and leads the Go Tell It ministry in the Holy Ghost Cathedral Church. So I'll start us off with our first question for our candidates, and I'll start with Richard Clement. First question is, what is the biggest issue facing the district and how would you address it?
Hello. Can you hear me? Hello.
Yes, we can hear you. Yep.
Hello. You can hear me. Okay, good. The biggest problem facing the district is funding. Okay, the way the school district was destroyed through creative accounting, and what we have to do to fix it is legislation inland kind of the resources a lot of that goes.
So we have some technical difficulties with Mr. Clement.
Hello, I'm back.
Yep. Yep.
Okay, I'd say the one of the most critical issues is the way schools are funded right now, and the reallocation of resources from to teachers and classrooms and programs that would benefit our students, such as music and swimming and technology. Tactical use of technology will help the attendance problem. We got a big attendance problem. Kids coming out of, won't come to school. So got to think out of the box to get them back into school. And once they're in there, keep them interested.
Thank you. Next is Deborah Hunter Harville.
Thank you. Good evening to everyone. I would say our largest crisis at this time is attendance. And there's a lot of research that shows that attendance is directly related to literacy rates. And so since our problem here is that our kids are 2 to 3 years behind, they have the learning loss issues, then we've got to get them to school every day and teach them with best practices every day and do it with fidelity. So that's one of the things that I would be encouraging. That's you asked for the biggest crisis. So that's the biggest, and I'll leave that and send you on to your next person. Thank you for the question.
Thank you. Next is Lamar Lemons.
The biggest crisis or the biggest issue facing the Detroit Public Schools would be, again, attendance and literacy, student performance by literacy. So those would be the two biggest issues.
And how would you address it?
I would address it by increasing the attendance by having the greater parental involvement and finding out why the students aren't attending and addressing that. I believe in having a literacy core sent out and supplemental tutors for the students, as well as after school programming, and as part of the solution.
Thank you. Next is Jamal Muhammad. I think you're muted, so.
Yes, I think the biggest problem that faces our school district is literacy in attendance, and how I would address that is making sure that we are reaching out to the community to work with them to make sure that they have the proper resources so that they are able to get to school. It's one thing for us to tell our students that we can that they should get to school every day, but it's another thing for us to offer the solution to the problem when we're having issues with bus drivers, having issues with transportation. But how can we reach out to the community and work together with them so that we can come up with solutions to find ways, whether it's getting more vehicles or getting more drivers, being able to utilize other resources that are in the city to help to address the attendance issue. And how we address the literacy issue is make sure that we are hiring qualified teachers in our school district. That's bringing the libraries back into our school district so that students are actually going into the libraries and able to read like we used to read back in the day, and make sure that they're things home.
Thank you. Next is Mary Simmons Short.
Thank you. I have a degree in reading. I have a master's degree in reading. And so I don't think one approach is going to be the best approach to stemming our literacy problem. One of the things that we need to do is have a literacy core, which is very similar to what Lamar Lemons is recommending, where you have a core of people coming in to help our students. But this core would be different. It would be other students as well as other people, such as high school students coming in to help the junior high and the middle school and the elementary students. The second approach would be to have the students and the staff work with Mrs. Moore, Helen Moore's literacy project. We would need to have the Quick to Learn program, which we did have before the emergency manager stopped it, wouldn't allow us to have it. And then more one-on-one tutoring for our students.
Thank you. Next is John Telford. You need to unmute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, okay.
Okay, yeah. The biggest problem that faces our students right now is the fact that the current administration has not taught them to read. And that's why I'm running for the school board. That's my platform, that's my passion, and that's what I want to make happen. And right now it's not. So we've got to teach the kids to read, and we have to do everything. You know, what Mrs. Short, what Dr. Short, she's Dr. Short now. What Dr. Short said is right on. You know, a literacy core, everything that we can do to enable our students to read, to motivate them to be able to read. We're letting our students down. The school district is supposed, I mean, the most basic responsibility of a school district is to teach its students to read. If they leave the third grade not able to read, they're in big trouble. We've got to make sure that our students can read, and right now it is happening.
Thank you. Last is Coletta.
Thank you. I would say that the number one, and that's what you want, issue of our district right now is systemic poverty. Systemic poverty is the issue that causes chronic absenteeism and causes problems in literacy. Cultural abnormalities, broken family units, homelessness, food shortage, lack of utility support. We have some issues that are outside of the actual school that are producing what we see in terms of chronic absenteeism and literacy issues. So in helping to support that, we're going to have to engage the entire community, business community, clergy community, educators, administrators, family support, everything that is available in terms of resources, nonprofits, to build back the family unit. Many of these children are homeless. Many of these families. Thank you.
Thank you. And now I'll pass on the next question to Havisa.
Thank you, Ethan. So our next question is, how do you plan on connecting with students, families, and staff? And we will start with Corletta Vaughn.
Thank you so much. I plan to continue doing what I've been doing for the last 4 years, going house to house, networking through support systems in the community, nonprofits, our churches, our faith expressions and liturgies, our pastors, interfaith community leaders, to get to the families to provide them the psychological, emotional, and social support.
Thank you. We will now move on to John Telford.
Students, family, and staff. Well, I have an advantage because I see students very, very frequently because I'm kind of a classroom junkie. I'm back teaching poetry at Frederick Douglass High School. So I see students frequently. And I'm also the poet in residence for the Detroit Public Schools Community District. So I go around to all the high schools sharing my poetry. And that gives me a direct contact with students, which I've never really left. You know, I've been an educator for 66 years.
Thank you. Ida Simmons Short.
Thank you for the question. As a former board member, I was the chair of the parent department. So I was regularly meeting with parents at the schools. In addition to that, we had a monthly parent meeting of all the parents, representatives from each school in the district. And in addition to that, we had the board meetings where we embraced our parents coming to the meetings and discussing their issues and concerns. We did not turn them off the mic. We allowed our parents to speak. And we also encouraged them to meet with us after the board meetings. So I would like to continue doing that. Even though I haven't been a board meeting member, when we went into the pandemic, I got a lot of calls from parents who wanted to find out how to get the computers that DPSD was handing out and the issue of the computers not working. So I was not a board member at that point, but I did touch bases with some of the people at DPS.
Thank you. I will now pass it to Jamal Mohammed.
Yes, how I would I be able to outreach our students, our staff, and parents and families is to make sure that we are engaging with our families each and every day by sending out notifications to students, make sure that we're actively in the community, working with the Detroit City Council, working with Wayne County, and actually all of us coming together at a table and having monthly meetings like we do the school board, to where we bring ideas together and reach out to organizations for all of us to be able to help out and bridge that gap.
Thank you. I will now pass it to Lamar Lemons.
The way that we engage the parents, the students, and the communities, we make sure that our district is very much a part of it. And to do that, I think we need to go out and in-person visits to all the various homes, community, the churches, the synagogues, the masjids, mosque, etc., and make sure that we are touching base with the community as they are, where they are, and make sure that they are partly engaged with the district. There's only a small percentage, a very small percentage, that attend board member meetings. Even when you're going to close the school down and you have a full house, it's still a very small percentage of the district as a whole. So that means if the parents don't come to the schools, then the school has to come to the parents. I believe that we need to have a core that goes out, social workers, and go door to door.
Thank you so much. I will now pass it to Deborah Hunter Harville.
Her mic is off.
Thank you. I apologize. A lot of things we've been doing. We've been reading to various classrooms and students throughout the district. That's K through 12, even high school students enjoy it. We've also been hosting special ed forums where we learn more about various disabilities that our students have and some best practice strategies to use. We've also been doing a lot with teacher professional development, looking at tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 instructional practices so that we can get the family engaged. You go to parent academy sessions and you just have a wonderful time watching how parents are getting engaged. I agree with everyone. Parent involvement could be greater, but we have to do more with the time span that we have. And so I agree, you meet parents wherever they are and you roll with them. And the same thing with the students. Thank you for the question.
Thank you. I will now hand it off to our last panelist for this question, Richard Clement.
Well, good afternoon. I would propose to have office hours like once a week for parents and students. And I would also have like their online reading so that parents and students can see what they're doing, including curriculum. I would also identify the troubled students and try to shoot more resources to them through community engagement, door to door, and teacher calling the students. Okay, and it may have to take hiring a team of people to do that. So that's what I do.
Thank you so much. I will now hand it off to Ethan for our next question.
Great, thank you. So our next question is, what should the district be doing to address learning loss? And I'll start with Richard Clement.
Well, I was trying to turn off my virtual background, but the learning loss basically is about attention deficit. I mean, we'd have to look at through testing and seeing how the comprehension goes to really reach into the cause of loss. Okay, and each child is different, and maybe it's a home environment, maybe it's just first time, hey, they don't understand it, so they may have to take it twice, get it right once. So it's just having faith in our children's ability. You know, just look at them playing with cell phones and all the technology. So they got the talent.
Thank you. Next is Dr. Deborah Hunter-Alvo.
Thank you. I would say thank you for the question. And I would say here are things that we need to be doing. We must implement a district literacy plan with fidelity. I mentioned that earlier. That means every day, a 90-minute reading block. Every day, a 90-minute mathematics block, because literacy is reading and mathematics. Professional development for teachers so that they can engage and know how to get students from tier 1 to tier 2 to tier 3. And just to break that down, it just means to get their level of growth to go up and not stay in one place. The training must be on spot for parents to understand what we're doing, as well as teachers, as well as the students. I say bring back Saturday school. I say make certain that we have incentives to excite students. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Lamar Lemons.
There we are. First of all, I would concur, ironically, with Deborah Hunter-Harville on the issue of Saturday schools. I believe we need to have a Saturday and after school program. That's part of what I would do if I had a team in which to get that done. In fact, I attempted to have that put in before, but I was outvoted on the issue. So I believe in having the after-school program, having the third meal on the after-school program. I believe in having Saturday school programs. How do you keep the interest, sports, music, increase in music? And you can do this on Saturdays and in the evening so that the child is intrigued. He's interested in coming to school. Theater, video theater. What do you have to do for theater? You have to read. You have to learn to read a script. You have to, and those are the type of things that interest students. The students would love. The students would love to come in to do things that they're interested in.
Next is Jamal Muhammad.
I'm sorry, my internet had went out for a minute. Could you repeat the question, please?
Yeah, so the question is, what should the district be doing to address learning loss?
Yes, Detroit, in order to address the learning loss that we have a lot over the pandemic, is to be able to make sure that we're investing more money into after school programs, make sure that we do have opportunities on the weekend for students to have electives to be able to do different things on the weekend, but also to be able to get them extra assignments and extra different types of abilities so that they're able to do stuff at home when they have assignments that they're actually doing and bring it back to be able to make up for their learning loss.
Thank you. Next is Addison Short.
Thank you for the question. I agree with everybody. I don't know what's going on. My screen is frozen. I don't know why. But anyway, I agree with what everyone has said, except I'd like to add a few more things to this. You can have a subject such as English, where you can teach the students how to read and study, the reading and study skills within the English class. In other words, some of these skills can be taught along with another subject. So that's one extra thing I would do. I would also have more one-on-one tutoring, which I think I mentioned earlier. And then I would have an African-centered curriculum. When we had the African-centered curriculum employed throughout DPS, we were one of the main public schools across the nation. We had people coming to DPS to see how we were able to get our scores up so high, how we were able to graduate so many students, a higher percentage of students. And that African-centered program is really good in terms of it helping to make the students feel good about themselves and about their progress.
Thank you. Next is John Telford.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. The kids can't read, okay? We've got to make sure that when they leave the third grade, they can read. Right now, that's not happening. We can't continue to repeat doing what we've been doing because to do that is a form of insanity, you know, when you know that it's not working. We've got to put in a program, as Ida Short said, you know, she mentioned the Quick to Learn program. I support that program as well. We were going to put that in when I was superintendent. We were prevented by the then emergency financial mismanager. Hopefully, we'll get the votes on the board to make a program like Quick to Learn come in. It's research-based, field-proven, and it actually is maybe the only program in the country that guarantees success. You don't pay it if it doesn't work. It's called pay only for success. But in order for it to be successful, we also have to reduce the class size in grades 1, 2, and 3 because those are the grades where the kids learn. They cannot leave the third. Okay, they can't leave the third grade without being able to learn. Thank you.
Thank you. And last is Coletta Vaughn.
Thank you. Everyone has said really good stuff. I just want to remind us that as school board trustees, we implement and write policies. And so some of the policies that I think are missing that will encourage and accelerate learning loss is going to be somehow engaging parents, because the pandemic impacted the way our parents are supporting their children in their education. It's difficult for a parent to teach what a parent does not know. And so I'd like to see some policies around parental support and possibly some adult learning courses that will assist parents to help their students.
Thank you. And now I'll pass it back to Avisa.
Thank you, Ethan. We will now move on to rapid fire questions. You will have 30 seconds to answer these questions. The first question is, what grade would you give VD or the district right now? We will begin with Corletta Vaughn.
What grade would I give Dr. Vitti and the district? Is it, can I grade them separate? Or you want one grade for the two? Quick, I would.
You can do separate.
I would probably do a C+, but I would give the current board probably a B- or A. I think the current board is amazing, but I would give us a C+.
Okay, thank you. We will now move on to John Telford.
I'm muted. What are you doing? What did you do?
Can you hear me now?
The picture to come back up.
Okay. What grade would I give Dr. Vitti? Well, that's
You
kind
don't
of
know what you're
complex,
doing.
you know,
You shouldn't
because
have messed it.
some things he's done well, and some things haven't been done that need to be done. And I'm talking again about the reading program. If we don't teach our kids to read, we're failing our kids in the most fundamental responsibility that we have as educators. So, certainly in the literacy aspect of Dr. Vitti's evaluation, I'd have to give him an F-. But he's done some other things that are good.
Thank you. I will now pass it to Ida Simmons Short.
I'm sorry. We've been having some technical problems here. Would you repeat the question right quick for me, please?
Yes, the question is, what grade would you give to Superintendent Nikolai Vitti or the district right now?
Well, I would say probably failure because the students are failing. So you can't get an A if the grade is based on your ability to do a certain job. So you would have to be an F.
Thank you. I will now pass it to Jamal Muhammad.
Yes, my grade would be a D because there's a lot of things that need to be approved on the school board and in the school district and with the superintendent. So my grade would be a D.
Thank you. I will now pass it to Lamar Lemons.
His grade in total, I would, for the student performance, I would say he's failing. He's failing the students. That he's done some things correct with the district, with the teacher recruitment, increasing the teacher salary, but his grade with the literacy rate what it is failing, especially when you consider every kid from the 6th grade on below is his kid, period. They only have one superintendent, and that's Dr. Vitti.
Time.
Thank you. I will now hand it off to Deborah Hunter Harville.
Thank you for the question. Certainly it's a question that needs to be answered. I think as it relates to student achievement, we're running right at a C- or so. We must do better, but it's not because Dr. Vitti doesn't have the brain to get us to where we need to. It's about the time, the fact that we are pivoting right now to increase achievement. And so I have that belief that that's going to happen. In terms of the school board, I would have to say a C.
Time.
Thank you.
Thank you. I will now pass it to Richard Clement, who will be our last panelist on this question.
Okay, I'd give maybe a C. Reason is such a low grade is that we let when it was time to rename the schools, like Dr. Ben bringing back Ethlyn Crockett and J. Red Finney to establish a neighborhood and history in our city, the boards kind of miserably failed by not acting. And the good things, he's still he's paying off teachers' loans and things, and you have to deal with some stuff. Thank you.
Thank you. I will now pass it back to Ethan.
Thank you. So the next question is, most of you had cited chronic absenteeism as a critical issue in the district. What is one thing the district isn't doing that it should be doing? And I'll start back at Richard Clement.
With student attendance and absence, I guess we don't have a unit set up to go in and go after the kids or we got to fund it a little bit more than what we're doing now to bring up the absence and include the cell phones and all the devices that they spend a lot of time on and bring that into the education process. And then we got to test them and see if they comprehend what's being taught to them.
Thank you. Next is Deborah Hunter Harville.
I would say at this time that maybe we need to have a little more creativity as it relates to getting students to come to school. We have vans and buses. We're doing that part right. We're trying to enable our kids and get them here. But back in the day, we used to give incentives like movie passes or family Dairy Queen tickets.
Time.
Or wow. Okay, sorry about that. But you know what I mean. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Lamar Lemons.
Yes, we need to have a parental core, a parent and community core that goes out door to door and makes sure and see what conditions, why the students aren't attending. Most importantly, we have to track our students. That's what we're not doing well, because we have found students in freezers dead because of apparent pressure or insanity. We have to know where our students are and what conditions they're living under and how to remediate those conditions.
Time.
And we need to move rapidly into doing so.
Thank you. Next is Jamal Muhammad.
Yes, in order for us to address our chronic absenteeism is that we need to have more dollars and more money invested in transportation, make sure that we're able to help when families need gas cars, make sure that we're able to have families assistance with housing, to make sure that we're actually putting boots on the ground and sending more vans out. Attendance agents should have vans to where they actually go and pick up students to be able to bring them to school. You can't have attendance agents that's pressing the issue as far as schools, and we don't have the capabilities to assist parents with transportation and gas costs and resources that they need to make sure that students get to school.
Thank you. Next is Ida Simmons Short.
Thank you for this question. We do need more staff in the attendance office. We also need to have more wraparound services, not just for the student himself or herself, but for the entire family, which other people have already mentioned. We need to have a holistic approach to why the students are not attending school. So I really think a short survey would also be necessary to find out why they're not coming to school, why the parents are not sending the children to school.
Time.
Thank you. Oh,
Thank you.
can I ask one more question? Can I ask about the video? Can I go out and come back in to see if I can correct that?
Yes, I think you can try. I'm not sure on my side.
If I go out, can I click back in?
Yeah, I think if you click the same link, you can.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Next is John Telford.
Oh, can you hear me now? Okay. We need to strengthen the attendance department, obviously. We need to hire more attendance officers. As Ida said, we need a wraparound program that encompasses the entire school and the families. This is a serious problem because you can't teach an empty chair. And so these are the things that I would suggest. We've got to motivate kids too, particularly at the secondary level. You know, I was a track coach with coach champions, but a lot of okay, I can't. A lot of those kids wouldn't have been coming to school at all that were for the program, the track program.
Thank you. And last is Coletta Vaughn.
Equitable funding to do all the things that people suggest requires money. So at the state level and the federal level, equitable funding for DPSCD.
Thank you. And I'll pass over the last rapid question to Avisa.
Thank you, Ethan. So our last rapid question is, name one thing you would do to increase teacher retention. And we will begin with Corletta Vaughn.
Equitable funding. Teachers deserve a great salary. If you want to retain great teachers, pay them great salaries. Equitable funding. And I will push for it in policy at the board when I'm reelected. Equitable funding.
Thank you. I will now pass it to John Tilford.
Okay, can you hear me? Okay, let's pay the teachers what they're paying them where I used to be a superintendent and deputy superintendent. Let's pay them what they're paying the teachers in the suburbs. We've got to pay teachers. I mean, they need battle pay in Detroit because they're facing social problems that they don't even imagine in the suburbs. So that would be my major suggestion. And not suggestion. If I get on the board, that's something I'm going to push for.
Thank you. I will now pass it to Ida Simmons Short.
You need to unmute. Oh.
Okay, I was trying to get the technology together, so I didn't hear the question.
The question is name one thing you would do to increase teacher retention.
Oh, besides having additional pay, I think there are other incentives that we can use for our teachers to keep them here in Detroit teaching, such as providing housing through the housing stock that we have here in Detroit. That would be one example. There are several incentives, such as having the, even though Biden has the student loan program going, but it won't pay 100% of students' loans. That is the teachers who were former
Time.
students. That would be something I would consider.
Thank you. I'm going to pass it to Jamal Muhammad.
Yes, I think that we need to put policies and procedures in place to make sure that the curriculums that our students are receiving in the classrooms are supported to be able to offer more transparency as far as literacy and making sure that they're actually getting the support and the academics they need, and be able to use programs like Detroit Champions for Hope and Hope Stars here and the different programs that we have in the community that can come into our schools and assist, because it takes a village to raise a child.
Thank you. I'm going to pass it to Lamar Lemons.
Yes, besides a pay, and which would be, quote, equitable funding, the conditions, work conditions, student class size, prep time, things that teacher need to have an environment, a good working environment, and besides pay.
Thank you. We will now move on to Deborah Hunter Harville.
Thank you. Great question. I would look at maybe giving one mental health day per semester. So that would be 2 in total. I would also look at having more meetings with the teachers to find out the kinds of things that it takes for them to want to remain in our district. And I would make sure that staffing is 100% up to par, particularly in special ed classrooms where we still need to have
Time.
parapros and aides. Thank you for the question.
Thank you. I will now pass it over to our last panelist for this question, which is Richard Clement.
There we go. Greetings, good afternoon. The question, to answer the question, first, the incentive bonuses for attendance, pay off teacher loans, new teachers, student loans at $10,000 a year for 5 years, up to $50,000, and give them tax credits to teachers for working in the school district and living in the city. And that would really, really keep them here. Like I say, love teachers every day. That's my campaign slogan. So.
Thank you. I'm going to pass it off to Ethan.
Thank you. Sorry, we've gone through our questions. Now we're opening it up to audience questions. So I'll start with the first question. This is coming from Alice. In a city hit hard by COVID and asthma, how will the candidates improve ventilation and air quality in and around schools? And we're starting with Richard Clement.
Okay, air quality. You ask about air quality at the school, in the school systems, in the schools. Basically, be a big investment in building maintenance and capital investment into buildings, and to put in modern air conditioning systems that use like solar power, alternative energy, and things like that. That would not only be ecology efficient, but it would generate jobs through alternative energy.
Time. Thank you. This is Deborah Hunter Harville.
So we have already been in the process of making sure we have good air quality and making sure that everything is fine with that. But what we did was one of our board members networked, and we just had awesome philanthropic giving, okay, to help us to take care of the schools in the school district. So now we need to go back and look and see that everything is okay and continue to request money. We got to keep pivoting because air quality is very important. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Lamar Lemons.
Yeah, obviously we need to modernize the ventilation system and particularly make it sensitive to asthma and because we have a high asthma rate, so we need a great filtration system, and to identify students, particularly who have breathing problems. A lot of times we are not even we're not made aware of a student's extra challenges.
Thank you. Next is Jamal Mohammed.
Yes, we need to be able to make sure that we have the proper ventilation that's done in our schools. Our schools should be able to have some type of form to where they're able to go through these schools, make sure that the ventilation is being clean, make sure they have air purifiers in the school, make sure that they have the proper heating and cooling, and make sure that we're cleaning out all these old things that we have in the building that's making the air quality terrible.
Thank you. Next is Ida Simmons Short.
Thank you. I agree that we need better air quality in our schools. And one of the best air quality would be the type of systems that the hospitals have, so that we're purifying and cleaning the air, which of course some of the airlines have adopted. Solar would be the best way to go, because we don't live, our schools are not close to water. That would cut our costs down for these new systems. And also, we need to plant more trees, which of course.
Thank you. Next is John Telford.
Yes, student health and safety are uppermost, obviously. And I agree with what everyone else said, about air quality. We have to squeeze a financial balloon to make sure that that happens. I mean, that's de rigueur. I mean, that's just an obvious question. We have to make sure our kids are safe and make sure that they're healthy in school.
Thank you. And last is Coletta Vaughn.
The board just approved millions and millions and millions of dollars in facility upgrades. We're going to be seeing HVACs improved over the next 4 years throughout the entire district. New school buildings are going to be built, and some of our old buildings cannot be modified. So there will be new buildings added, as well as additions added to the old buildings. And we're looking for great air quality.
Thank you. And now I'll pass it back to Habiza.
Thank you, Ethan. Our next question is from Ken. Given the book banning issue in Dearborn, what should we do to support LGBT students and ensure a diversity of ideas is offered in our libraries? We will begin with Coletta Vaughn.
I'm not very familiar with what happened in Dearborn, but I know what's happening across the country. And so I believe that every voice of every child's faith, every child's preference, and every child's orientation, every child needs to be represented in what they read and the pictures that they see. And so we've got to improve. We also have to improve in what our libraries are offering in terms of being opened and finding librarians to service that. But every child needs to see themselves in a book.
Thank you. I will now pass it to John Telford.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, there are some materials that are age restrictive. Obviously, there are some things that we don't want little kids to be able to see or read. But I totally oppose censorship, particularly at the high school level. Censorship is something that is something that I will oppose and always will oppose. Our kids should be exposed to any kind of material that there is, and that's just my opinion about that. I'm in total opposition to censorship of any book.
Thank you. I will now pass it to Ida Simmons Short.
Thank you. As an educator and teacher of reading, it is important that all of our students have knowledge and awareness of others. That means locally, whoever the others are, and internationally. Banning books has never really worked because the students will find the books some other way. However, if a parent does not want a student to read a certain book, I believe the parent should have a right to determine that their child doesn't have to read the book.
Thank you. Next we have Jamal.
Yes, I think that we should make sure that the books that are in our library represent students from all different type of nationalities and all different types background, that everybody should be afforded with the equal rights and equal opportunities to be able to read and learn and understand, and that everybody should be respected for their walk of life, and that we should be able to do what we can do to be able to help and assist our children.
Thank you. Next we have Lamar Lemons.
There it is. My computer was stuck. I'm totally opposed to censorship. And as someone already said, every voice must be reflected, and definitely should not be removing books from the library. You select your books in libraries, for number one, and every child should be able to see themselves represented in society as part of a global citizenry.
Thank you. Next we have Deborah Hunter-Harville.
Thank you. Thank you for the question. Diversity is very important to me, and so we must make sure that we give all students a chance to learn however they need to learn and give them the guidance that they need. So age-appropriate sharing is important. As it relates to librarians, because students are not going into education to become librarians, we don't have librarians that are graduating. So we have to go into the middle schools and go into these media centers and get students to get more engaged and go into school to become that as well.
Thank you. I will now pass it to our last panelist for this question, Richard Clement.
Good evening. I think that book banning is politically motivated. If you can't ban it on the book, they got the smartphones. They can pick it up on the internet anyway. I think it's straight out discrimination, a political ploy for votes. And check out the books checked out. 50,000. It's stupid. I think it's beyond. I mean, it's against the First Amendment. The kids are going to do it anyway. So I'm against.
Thank you. I will now pass it back to Ethan.
Great, thank you. So this is our last audience question before we end it off for panel 2. So this is from Malik. We've seen the tragedies of school shootings. Oftentimes it's been said the assailant was seriously bullied at school. How would you eliminate bullying or hold bullies accountable? And the first question goes to Richard Clement.
Okay, to stop bullying in school, we need more athletics. You get the bully and you put a helmet on each one of them and you let them duke it out on the football field and and what you call wrestling or something like that. That's a part of the failure of the activity. So way you stop it.
Time.
Thank you. And we'll pass it over to Deborah Hunter-Harville.
Thank you again. We have already done something with our no bullying program. In every school, of course, we have activated the initiative. And so kids need to learn how to treat everyone with respect. They need to know what to do if they in fact are being bullied, like go to the office, like tell a teacher. They need to know how to stand up for others and give information to others. And parents need to get more involved with bullying. You kind of need a little more time for that, but I'm sure we'll pull it together with all of us on the line. Thank you.
Next is Lamar Lemons.
Yes, what is required is that you have to sit down with both the parent and the child and get them to stop that behavior. Teach the child that such behavior as an adult is a criminal offense and that could end them up, put them on a path that they don't want to be on. So bullying is really an illegal activity that is tolerated only because you are a child. The same action by an adult, and the children should know that, could end them being incarcerated. And so they need to be taught.
Next is Jamal Mohammed.
Yes, I think that when we need to implement policies to be able to teach our children about conflict resolution programs that we have inside the classroom, we need to make sure that we're giving more emphasis and make sure that our children, that we see problems, that we're intervening when they have problems that come up in the classroom, that we're actually taking the time to listen to our students, because when we take the time to listen to our students, a lot of times we can stop bullying from happening when we're able to take the time to listen to them, implement programs and strategies, and be able to offer them the support they need.
Thank you. Next is Ida Simmons Short.
Thank you for that question. Besides the board policy, it's important that the students that are involved in the bullying and their parents, both sets of parents, come in and have meetings with the counselor, the social worker, and have follow-up services provided for them. It's also important for the students, the other students who witnessed the bullying, to also have some support services available to them. And what has been mentioned is conflict resolution, but it might require more than that, such as, like I said, counseling.
Thank you. Next is John Telford.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Bullying, of course, is unacceptable. We need to teach empathy. Anti-bullying programs are excellent. I have a friend named Blaine Smith. He played for 3 NFL teams. He's got an anti-bullying program. I think it would be good to bring folks like Blaine in and teach what they know. He also coached at Central High School, but bullying is one of the worst things in schools or anywhere else. Kid can't learn if he's afraid to be bullied.
Thank you. And last, Carletta Vaughn.
We have mental health issues in our schools, folks. So in addition to the anti-bullying programs, we have got to step up mental health and trauma-informed support for our children. Children reflect what they see and hear. And so we've got to work on mentally stabilizing our children, our families, and our staff.
All right, thank you to all our panelists. We are now going to take a short 1-minute intermission. So if you need to go to the bathroom, grab water, snack, you can do that. But we're going to come right back to our panel 2. So be with us shortly. Thanks.
Okay, let me ask you a question for clarification. Are you saying that we're going to be part of panel 2 or we're done?
No, so you're done. So the panelists for the second round will.
Oh, okay. So we can log off.
Yeah. Thank you.
All righty. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
How can we see it if we're not on the panel? Is there a place I can go see it?
You can stay where you are and see it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, when it comes back on,
Panelists
just turn off your camera.
Candidates in panel 1, please stay muted. You can remain. Please stay muted and off camera. Sasha, go ahead and get us started with panel 2. Thanks, everyone.
Okay. Thank you for joining us for the second panel in our virtual DPSCD candidate forum. I'm Sasha Ryan. I cover education, children, and families at 1019 WDET, Detroit's NPR station. And joining me is My Joy Reed Nash, who is a senior at Martin Luther King Jr. Senior High School and a student journalist who is also a musical artist. So thank you, My Joy, for helping me out here. We're going to introduce our second panel of candidates. Angelique Peterson Mayberry is a current board member. She's also the DEI manufacturing strategist at Ford Motor Company. Monique Bryant is the executive director of the Triangle Society. Regina Ann Campbell is president and CEO of Build Institute. Bessie Harris is a retired educator, spending her career as a teacher, assistant principal, and principal in Detroit schools. Aaliyah Moore is a district parent. She's also a cleaner and an artist. Ridgely Hudson works in the nonprofit sector and is previously worked as a school culture facilitator in the district. Iris Taylor is a health consultant and administrator of clinical services for the Detroit Health Department. She's a former school board member. Latrice McClendon is community president, Detroit Huntington Bank, and is a district parent. So we'll start then with our first questions for the panel. And you'll have 1 minute to answer. What is the biggest issue facing the district and how would you address it? We'll start with Monique Bryant.
Well, we all know the major, but what we can address immediately, parent engagement is suppressed in this district. We should have a PTA in every school and a SAC committee in every school. That way, we would be addressing concerns from parents in the community directly. Then collectively, we could go to the board and get some resolution to a lot of these problems that we keep voicing over and over at every board meeting, but parents still feeling that they have not been heard, nor has a new policy been enacted to correct some of the things that we're experiencing as parents and teachers and staff in schools.
Regina Ann Campbell, same question.
So there's issues, and this is a tough question, right? Because if we say parental engagement, absenteeism, educational achievement, and safety, they're all interconnected, right? And so those are all important issues. But I will say the safety piece is key at the top, because in order for children to be able to learn, teachers to be able to be effective, they got to be safe, feel safe. And there's currently a policy that's in place, one with metal detectors. I walk to schools, the doors are unlocked, things go off on metal detectors and there's no follow through. So again, between security and safety, we've got to do that first if we want educational achievement as well as students to address absenteeism. Let's get with the safety protocols.
Bessie Harris.
Thank you. Can you hear me? I would say that it is chronic absenteeism, special education, and the motivation to come to school. I think with chronic absenteeism, we need to go to the homes or find out what students are having chronic absenteeism, find out the reason why and give them support the reasons why they're doing this. And then we've got to bring back the joy of coming to school, the joy of wanting to come to school. And I think if we tackle the absenteeism and bring back that motivation, then that will solve the problem.
Ridgely Hudson.
Yes, good evening. I believe two of the biggest issues are, one, the chronic absenteeism, and as a result brings about the second issue, which is our academic achievement. And so As we look, after the pandemic, we lost 3,000 students, and which was drastically an issue for the Detroit Public Schools Community District. And so what we should do is figure out how could we ensure a more positive and more proactive school culture for our students, as well as build and foster relationships with families, as well as students and individuals on the school level, to ensure that we can boost our attendance as well as our academic achievement.
Latrice McClendon.
Yes, hello, everyone. There are several issues that are facing the district. Things that come to my mind would be our low achievement, high dropout rates, and also our chronic absenteeism. You know, I think addressing these issues, and I know I just gave you three, you asked for one, but I want to say that it's important that we look at our low-hanging fruit and look at our own policies that create barriers for our children. We talk about chronic absenteeism, yet we have some transportation issues in our district, whether that's in our public transportation or even in our policies that are that are created. And so I think we need to look at our own policies and figure out where are we creating barriers for our own students. Thank you.
Aaliyah Moore.
Yes, thank you. One of our biggest problems, and everybody, you know, had very good answers, but ultimately, this district, the board has allowed Dr. Vitti to take control instead of the board as his employer to give him the mission to fulfill. And the federal government gave us $1.27 billion, I'm sorry. And a lot of the things and the issues that are being talked about right now could have been solved with a lot of that money instead of having 700 million of that 1.27 billion in the sky for the next 20 years for facilities. It could be used to solve a lot of the issues that the candidates speak on today.
Angelique Peterson Mayberry.
Good evening, everybody, and thank you for hosting this Chalk Beat. Thanks for having this. I will say that there are several. And when you think about an ecosystem, they are all interrelated. So you will hear things like literacy. Is that an issue? Absolutely. You will hear things like chronic absenteeism. Is that an issue? Absolutely. Transportation. Is that an issue? Absolutely. Teachers' pay. Is that an issue? And retention? Absolutely. I don't think we can say that there's one. And when you draw all of those together, what you have is funding. And so what we've been able to do as a district and team right now is that we've had 1.2, we heard Ms. Moore just say $1.2 billion. And a lot of what we've been able to do is because we've had that funding. That goes away in 2024. So now what happens when you talk about literacy, you talk about academic interventionists, those who've been able to assist in that space. What happens in 2024? There's one pot of money. How do you now move and prioritize programming? You have performing arts that was brought back and expounded. So young people are doing more than reading, writing, and arithmetic and playing sports. They're doing things in performing arts. I'm sorry. So how, oh, it's time?
Time.
Okay, yes. Sorry.
Iris Taylor, your response?
As been indicated and said before, the biggest challenges that we have are always integrated. It's not a singular focus. And so if we look at the overall reform work, we will look at absenteeism because the child has to be in school in order to learn. You would look at literacy. But more importantly, we have to also look at the disparities that exist prior to the child being able to get to school. And so we have to build in some programming that addresses those disparities, whether that's a safety issue, whether that's a housing issue, whether that's eating, whether that's a mental health issue, that collectively we have to do programming that supports those disparities prior to entering school, as well as those things that happen while they're in the school.
Okay, thank you for those responses. My Joy has the next question.
So we did, I can't hear her, or was I the only one not able to hear her?
I did not hear her.
My Joy, can you try taking out your headphones? Sasha, oh, go ahead.
Yes, you can hear.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, great. Okay, the question is, how do you plan on connecting with students, families, and staff? Then we'll start with Iris Taylor.
Thank you for the question. Engagement requires a constant intentional behavior that has to occur in multiple different venues. So I would be engaged in terms of community forums, visitations to community groups in their meetings, as well as engagements in the rounding that you would do in the school and with parent-teacher conference. There's not a singular way that you can communicate and be ensured that you have reached everybody where they are and heard everyone. So I would support an overall strategy that has multiple different ways of communication and contact with both faculty, students, family, and community groups.
Angelique Peterson Mayberry.
Thank you. So this is a space we've got to do a better job in. We started before COVID, where we were having the community groups, the meetings where a board member, 2 board members would come into certain areas of the city and have community groups. But I think that we've got to do a better job connecting with the groups that are already meeting in those communities. When you think about like the city of Detroit, there's districts, and that's what makes it sometimes very difficult for the district, because you're talking the entire city, but they have meetings in certain areas. And so maybe it's partnering with them to be present at those meetings as we have people. But we have student ambassadors, not only student ambassadors on the board, but we have a student government team. And so being able to have more conversations, I've visited those groups and had conversations with them, but being able to have more of that. And then I also think that there are spaces in the faith base that we need to be able to have more conversation with them as well. This is where people go. And so we've got to go where they are. Instead of expecting them to come to us, we've got to go to where they are.
Okay, and Lilia Moore.
Yes, I am a parent first, so I am already very active in the schools, and I do communicate with other parent leaders throughout the district. So stepping that up and being on the board, I would like to introduce maybe once or twice a month, having a location where they can come and meet and have coffee or tea, or even come in the schools. Some of the people that are up for re-election are okay with the current board policies as of cutting the mic off if things are repetitious, if it's not on the agenda, if it's irrelevant. So that does not really spell welcoming and engaging the public. So if I am on the board, I do want to revisit that policy.
Okay, Latrice McClendon.
I think you guys called me Latrice McClendon.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Yes, thank you. You know, honestly, you can't connect with people without trust, right? And I think as a parent, for me to connect with anybody in administration, I got to feel like I trust them. And so I think it's really going back to the drawing board to figure out how we can gain the trust of our parents, our staff, our students, right? Through transparency, and also through, you know, strategies that are non-punitive, right? And so I think it's important that we, one, meet parents where they are. We are all not the same. Whether that some parents prefer to communicate on social media, some parents prefer to communicate in person at meetings. And I think it's important that we have strategies that are innovative and that we're thinking outside of the box on how we connect with those who are in this ecosystem. I also think we need more focus groups so that we can have more parent engagement, right? When we're making decisions about certain issues and policies, I think it's important to get the voice. And if you have the voice of parents and teachers and they feel like they're at the table, it also builds trust. And so I'm just a
Ridgely Hudson.
Thank you. Yes, I believe it is important as a school board member to engage every stakeholder of our community, be it parent, business, professional, community leader, churches, faith-based community, and et cetera. And so I believe that it is important that we do host events outside of just school board meetings to ensure that we're communicating with those in the community and invite them to the table as we make decisions on behalf individuals, such as alumni and all other groups. And so we should just be focused on one, building and fostering relationships with those individuals so they will feel comfortable coming into spaces where we can have those conversations and those meetings. And so that is something that we do need on the board. And as they are already beginning the work, that it's needed that we continue to work in that space. So thank you.
Bessie Harris.
Yes, thank you for that question. And that's a good question. First of all, I would make myself approachable, be visible. I would make visit to schools. I would make visits to the PTA meetings. I would attend outside community meetings, tooting the horn of our school district, letting them know that I'm here, I'm approachable, I'm available, and it's about the students.
Regina Ann Campbell.
Thank you for the question. I definitely believe that this is a role for a public servant. And just like in my day job, businesses are my client. In this case, it's the student and the parent and caregiver centered around that. So between having a time where once or twice a month, there's certain hours that I can go into the community, whether it be at school or meet parents where they are, will be important. And having hybrid ways, because some people can't, they don't have a vehicle and can't come across town. So having both virtual and in person to be accessible. Attending some of the youth forum and meetings is important to make sure that their voice is always at the table. So again, just meeting people where they are and being available and again, approachable and building trust.
Monique Bryant.
Well, I engage students, parents, and the community first every single day. They know that they can depend on me when they call and they have a problem, a situation, a concern. I am taking it seriously. I am addressing it. I am an inviting person. And that's what people need to feel. They need to feel that you are compassionate about what is going on in their lives and their students. Not to just brush past and say, well, see you at, send me an email, come to a meeting. Engagement happens at the front door, sometimes just before a student enters. We have got to just simply care more about our students and our families. And that has to be reflective on every single level. And we do not get that. And I say we because I am a parent, I'm a community partner, and I sometimes just feel that that doesn't happen.
So the next question for the panel is, what should the district be doing to address learning loss? And we'll return to Monique Bryant.
Well, learning loss, we should definitely be bringing more resources into the classroom. We know that we're on a computer age, but we need some school books. We need books so that parents can actually assist some of these students. And we talk about parents can't read and some of the other issues, but I went to a parent-teacher conference yesterday and I'm like totally lost as to how the students are posting assignments and what's being taught. So we need to, as we speak of parent engagement and parent book that we have courses and classes, we need funding that provides resources for parents so that they can assist their students. It takes a village. It takes a village, but we're missing the very piece that starts at home. We expect a lot of things from parents, send them and ready to learn. And then when they come home, we're expected to help with homework. But we can't do that if we don't know what's going on academically.
Regina, thank you. Regina Ann Campbell, same question.
Thank you for the question. I believe that there are several ways to address learning loss. Yes, bringing different, more resources into the classroom, but also home and virtual. The one thing COVID showed us up close is that students learn differently. Some are more visual and can be very effective in a virtual or in the classroom, so hybrid approaches. And making sure that for parents, when parents ask for exemplars, and I speak as a parent who've asked for exemplars, that we are given that. And a lot of times it's in order for me to help my child at home, I need to know what your metrics and your rubrics are. And it's always a fight. So provide us with the framework, the metrics and the rubrics, and then you can say parents are accountable, because we need to understand what your plan is. So again, provide us the resources that we need, train teachers to not just know how to use Office Teams, but how to teach online. I know how to teach online, and that requires a certain tactic and strategy to make sure that students are learning well. So there's several different things from a virtual perspective, in person and in training.
Thank you. Bessie Harris.
Yes, that's a great question. Being a special ed teacher, I think we need to incorporate individual student plan. I think every student should have their own individual plan. We should teach to that plan. We should evaluate according to that plan. And we should bring the parents into the fold so that they know what the plan is, what teaching is to be done through that plan. So I am in favor of every student having an individual student plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Ridgely Hudson.
Thank you for that question. I believe we as a district should implement a district literacy plan, as well as providing training for our teachers and staff that will bring about learning growth. I believe we also should revisit our night school. We had night school for some time where our students had an opportunity to learn beyond the school level, or some students who needed extra time to learn should have that access, as well as Saturday school. And so we should also ensure that we are facilitating authentic and relevant learning experiences for all of our students. So I believe that that is what the district should do as it pertains to regaining our learning loss and then finding our academic footing as a district and moving forward.
Thank you. Latrice McClendon.
Yes, thank you for the question. So I really believe that it's important that we focus on things that we can do while we have the children in school during their school hours. And we should be addressing learning loss in real time. And so I personally feel like if we were to build in programs, maybe take a look at the curriculum, maybe we can, if it's a math issue, lengthen that math time or shorten another area and bring in resources in real time that students can access while in school. As a parent, it's not always easy to take your kids to school on a Saturday and evenings. I think it should be an option, but I think we should be provide additional resource for our teachers so that they can grow, understand, and have an understanding of the effects of learning loss and what they can do in the classroom. And also we should engage parents, of course. And I think parents should have some accountability, but should also have some technology where reports are sent to parents regularly so they understand where their child is and if there is a deficit, so those things can be addressed early.
Aaliyah Moore.
Yes, it is very important to try to get our kids back to where they need to be academically, but and everybody so far has said some good points, but ultimately, if our enrollment does not go up to as of now and stay where it is and go up, by next year, Dean of Cultures, academic interventionalists, attendance agents, nurses, all of those things will be gone because the majority of our COVID funding will be gone. So to have $700 million sitting and waiting instead of cutting that in half and using that for our academic recovery, to use that to address the absent chronic-teaism, we are just sitting here talking because the plan B, I don't know if the district has a plan B, but I do know that if our enrollment does not go up, all of these suggestions will just be taught because
Angelique Peterson Mayberry.
So I really can appreciate what I'm hearing because I think it means that people are in tune. We just rolled out a literacy plan the last board meeting, and so that is available. If you go on the website, you can see that. In terms of parents, we have academic nights, we have math nights, literacy nights at the school level. And so for those parents, you know, we need to stop saying just parents, because I go and talk to grandparent groups. There are like 70-year-olds and plus raising young people. And so how then do they help these young people with their homework? We had summer school where we were trying to help close some of that achievement gap that we call learning loss. And we only had like 10,000 students and out of almost 50,000 students. And so these learning opportunities that we create outside of the normal day, we've got to make sure that people, one, attend, and two, it's worth their while. So while they're there, we talking about social emotional learning. So this is beyond what you could ever be tested on, but yet if it's not addressed, then it will manifest itself in what young people do with learning, reading, writing, arithmetic, and behavior. And so I think it's important that as we talk about that, we're expanding opportunities beyond the classroom. That's got to continue to happen. And before COVID, we know that our young people had superseded the state standard as it comes to 3rd and 4th grade in terms of academics. We did that, right, as a district, because we adopted a new curriculum. So I just want people to remember some of those things that were starting to happen before
We
COVID
do
hit.
have time.
COVID hit everybody academically.
Thank you. Iris Taylor, your response?
What everyone has said is very accurate. In order for us to close the learning gap, we have to stay focused on the reform. And those elements in the reform that strategically will help improve and have historically improved as we have been experiencing pre-pandemic. I think it's critical that in that priority that we engage the community and the other resources in the community that can help facilitate focus on that same priority.
Okay, My Joy has the next question.
Okay, we are now going to shift to a couple of rapid fire questions. You will have 30 seconds to answer these. First up, what grade would you give Superintendent Nikolai Vitti for the district right now? And we'll start with Iris Taylor.
I would say that we're in a moderate level. I think it's not great to be able to do a letter because some areas are A's, some are B's, some are C's, some we have simply missed the mark totally and have an opportunity for improvement. So I'll say that we're moderate at this point in time.
Okay, Angelique Peterson Mayberry.
Thank you, my fellow Crusader. I would say below average.
Okay, and Aaliyah Moore.
Yes, I would give Dr. Vitti.
Sorry, I couldn't hear Ms. Moore. Was it just me or did she cut out?
No, we couldn't hear you.
No, I think your response, Ms. Moore, was completely distorted. Maybe we could try again.
Okay, it was the airplane flying up. Can you hear me now? Okay, I do apologize. I would safely give this school board an F, but I would give Dr. Vitti a D only because he has successfully become his boss's boss.
Thank you. And then we'll move on to Latrice McClendon.
So I believe that we're pretty average right now, and I would give everything, his grading would be average. We have a lot of work to do as a parent. I've seen some good things happen as far as more teachers being hired and covering that gap. But I think there's a lot of work to do. And as a parent with children, you know, I don't think that we're at a point where we're talking A's and B's. I think we have a lot of work to do.
Thank you. Next, we'll move on to Ridgely Hudson.
Thank you so much. When, as a student, as a staff member, and then as a student advocate, I believe that we should look at everything. And so I believe that he should probably receive a D as a superintendent, just based upon what we see currently prior to the pandemic and then now the post-pandemic. And then as a district, I would say that we're making some progress. So I will give us about below average, a C or C minus. Thank you.
Thank you. Bessie Harris?
I would give the superintendent and the board a C minus, only because they're hand in hand. And there's some good things, and there's some things where they're missing the point, but there's other areas that they're above average. So I would say they're a C minus, and that's being very generous.
Thank you. Regina Ann Campbell?
Thank you for the question. I would give, based on student achievement and literacy, an F. And just like in my job, I'm accountable for my scorecard and meeting the goals. Either I hit it or I didn't. There's no excuses on where you did good in this area. When our children are failing, we're failing. So it's an F.
Thank you. Lastly, we have Monique Bryant.
She's on mute.
After being a parent and an advocate and community partner in this district for the past 5 years, for me, it's an F that my board is failing me as a parent and as a community partner. And for Dr. Vitti, that would be an F because our students are suffering.
Okay, the next question is also a quick fire question. You have 30 seconds to answer. We talked a lot about chronic absenteeism tonight. What is one thing the district is not doing that it should be doing to address that? Sorry, Monique Bryant.
We need to reestablish the value of a quality education. Parents, we talk about kids not coming to school. Parents aren't sending them to school. I run across parents every day that are going out of their way, miles, passing 3 or 4 Detroit public schools and going to a charter school. And I was one at that time because I don't trust the I didn't trust the education that was happening in the schools and a lot of other things that we've talked about.
Thank you. Regina Ann Campbell.
First, I think it's critical to understand the root causes. There's several reasons why there's chronic absenteeism. I have yet to hear an actual cause so that we can determine what is the best solution as a path forward. Transportation is an issue. Opening schools back up in the neighborhood, one is important so that kids can go to the school that's in their neighborhood. We got a lot of kids going from one side of the district to the other. And so we need to understand the root cause in order to propose the right solution.
Thank you. Bessie Harris.
Can you hear me? Okay, thank you for that question. I know we speak of chronic absenteeism, but we need to know why. We have data. We know where those students are. We know the ones who have the problem with coming to school. Let's go out and find out why. And if there's a need in that household, we need to have social work services or some kind of service support, wraparound services to support that family.
Time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ridgely Hudson.
I agree with what's been said. We should figure out what's the reason. And so during the pandemic, I was one of those individuals that went out to canvas to knock on doors to ask individuals were they okay. So I think that we should revisit that, to knock on doors. We have 3,000 students that are missing since the pandemic. Knocking on those doors, figuring out why are our students absent, what are the needs of those students, and providing wraparound services to ensure that we can close that gap and that we can ensure that our students are in school and that they are actually learning.
Thank you. Latrice McClendon.
Yeah, I think right now we have to have an urgency around getting to the students that are missing, right? We need to go to their last known address. We need to get to their last known phone number. We need to get in communication with whoever we can get in communication with to understand where our students are. I think we just need to get some work done in this area. And I think the first thing is just doing some examination of where the students are and trying to find that out. So I feel like we need to act with urgency, and we need to create a plan now where we're actually moving to find these children before it's too late.
Thank you. Aaliyah Moore. You are distorted again. Do you want to give it a second? We can ask Angelique Peterson Mayberry to respond, and then we'll come back to you.
So
Angelique,
first let me say, I really want to commend our attendance agents that we have in the schools, because we know that they're doing an amazing job of going to identify where these young people are. I was out of school the other day, and attendance agents were going to homes and picking students up. So, we want to make sure that we don't walk away from this conversation thinking that nobody's doing that. Yes, the Are You OK campaign, we knocked on almost 50,000 doors, and we had resources to pay some parents to do that, right? So from the district, they were already doing that, but it's not enough people. I know Ms. Moore did it. There were several people who were able to do that. So when you unpack why they're not in school, we should know why they're not in school. We know they're not in school because really, what are they coming to school for? So we got to think about what are we doing to keep them in school, because a lot of them are decision makers. They're making the decision on if they're coming to school or not the parents.
Thank you. Ms. Moore, wondering if your mic is.
Is that better?
That is much better. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yes, this conversation about chronic absenteeism should have been with the board and Dr. Vitti prior to them putting that 700 million for facilities. Because I said it and I'll say it again, if enrollment does not go up, those current attendance agents could lose their jobs. So unless we find another way in the budget or come up with some extra funds, the current attendance agents that we already have will be gone. So therefore, who will go door to door? And then as far as the parents that were paid, I do believe that the district should continue that. But once again, how are they paid?
Thank you. Iris Taylor, your response?
Yes, I think that we do know some of the data for why children aren't in school, but one of those disparities we know that are events that happen prior to getting to school. So having a health hub, for example, that provided physical health, mental health, which is very critical at this point in time, dental health, social worker that has a parent advocate and someone who could reach out to help facilitate resources in the community to connect with families, so it will prevent some of the things from occurring that are deterrents to kids being in school.
Thank you. My Joy has the next question.
Name one thing you would do to increase teacher retention. We'll start with Iris Taylor.
I don't think it's one thing. All professionals, there are multiple things that keep you there. There are salaries. You need to have a work environment that's conducive for you to be able to do the work. So you have adequate supplies, you have adequate resources to do the job. There's an opportunity for development, and then we can spicing up the offer by having periodic incentives, whether it is discounts in homes in the city of Detroit or other elements that will be added to. But first, we have to have an environment that's conducive for them to be able to do their work.
Thank you. Next, Angelique Peterson Mayberry.
Agreed. I know everyone is going to say wages. And as you talk to teachers, a lot of teachers will say wages, but it's so much more than that. Because when you think about it, if that could get them here, then what keeps them here? And so work environment does make a difference. And I think when we talk about culture, it's not just our students, but it's the culture of everyone who comes into the schoolhouse. And sometimes that's parents, sometimes that's superintendent, it's board. I think it matters what the culture is. And if there's accountability when there is culture that is not aligned to what we're saying we're going to do holistically as a district. And so work environments, of course, wages, of course, but I think it has a lot to do with about feeling valued, recognized, rewarded, and culture. We don't hold teachers in reverence like we used to. And that's not just in Detroit, that's across the nation. And we got to do it.
Thank you. We'll now go to Aaliyah Moore.
Yes, as I've stated before, this $1.27 billion could have hired more academic interventionists on contingent contracts. It could have hired more paraprofessionals, and it could have ultimately partnered with enough community organizations and groups that specialize in mental health students. Oh, I'm sorry. If you take the load off the teacher with the parapros and the academic interventionalists, they get preps. And so the district has increased the pay, but offering mental health services as a discount is also a plus.
Thank you. Next, we'll have Latrice McClendon. Same question.
Thank you. I believe that we need to let our teachers do what we've hired them to do, and that's to teach. And so we need to provide opportunities in our classroom for our teachers to have support staff, whether that's paraprofessionals, therapists, whatever we need in the school to take the load off of them, number one. And I think we need to care about the quality of life for our teachers. And we need to have incentives for housing. And of course, we're working on the pay, but additional pay. We need to make our teachers feel like they are able to have a quality of life in DPSCD, in the classroom and outside the classroom.
Thank you. Next, Reggie Lee Hudson.
Yes, teaching is one of our most honorable professions, and I believe that one, competitive pay is very important, especially as we're talking about our superintendent being one of the most highest paid in the state. I believe that our teachers should be right along with him in that, and as well as inviting them to the table when we're making decisions, because at the end of the day, our teachers are the ones in the trenches that our decisions are affecting. And so we should always invite them to the discussions, and we should also talk to them about making decisions on behalf of our students. And so increasing teacher pay, but not only that, but creating a space that will boost their morale. Thank you.
Thank you. Bessie Harris.
Yes, I think we need to get back to making teachers feel like they're needed, feel respected, feel honored. We need to put out a survey to find out what is the need of the teachers, what is their interest, what's keeping them here, and then we need to go from there. But we definitely need to bring back, because they are so worthy and they need comparable pay.
Regina Ann Campbell.
Thank you for the question. Teachers are so important and so valuable. They manage a lot, have to deal with parents, board, administration, students, and community. Along with pay incentives for those who are doing extremely well, considering the conditions, making sure that they have other incentives, as has been said before in the survey, as Ms. Harris mentioned. Ask them what they want, and each year evaluate how we can do more there. Maybe it's more with doing a 401k. Maybe it's more around putting in insurance costs for supporting their family.
Thank you. Lastly, we'll have Monique Bryant.
I want to say we need to have more funding in the classroom. We have a lot of teachers that are going without instruments. They're going without additional resources for their through my organization, raise money to purchase instruments, to purchase performance wear, the things that they really need Teachers go without, but they're like parents. They don't want to see their students with them. So can we get some funding in these classrooms so that they have those resources that they need? And yes, pay is good, but when my new teacher is making as much as my veteran teacher, that's not fair.
So our next questions are coming from the audience. Thank you for your responses. From Amy, what are you going to do to protect teachers from the type of interference over LGBTQ content or fictitious claims about CRT, critical race theory? Relatedly, how do you intend to protect trans students? We'll start with Monique Bryant.
Just training and distributing information to parents. With parents understanding some of these issues, these talks should be happening at home for a lot of students, even before we get to school. And so to have dialogue at home, but we need access to that information. And then let's go move forward to working in schools with student groups and teachers, same thing, knowing that information.
Thank you. Regina Ann Campbell.
First, I always like to ask the groups that we're talking about, what do they need and what do they want? Then also look at best practices around the country. This isn't a new topic or issue. Who's doing this already and who's doing it well? Bring it back forward and let caregivers, parents, administrators make some decisions about how do we implement this into the school for choice, even though parents and caregivers have a choice to say, well, we want this curriculum for our child or not. But again, look at some best practices, ask people for what they need, and learn from one another.
Thank you. Bessie Harris.
We need to teach about diversity. We need to explain diversity. We need to meet the students where they are. We need to make them feel inclusive. We need to hold parent forums where we talk about that. And of course, have school-wide workshops where we talk about that. But they need to be made to feel inclusive and not separate.
Thank you. Ridgely Hudson.
I agree. I think that we should engage our parents, our administrators, and individuals that are who play an important role in our students' activity, and we should ensure diversity and inclusion is there, regardless of the student's orientation, gender, or whatever their faith is, or preferences. We should ensure that they are included. We should ensure that they receive a voice and that they are represented in all spaces. And so we should be the ones to provide that for them. Thank you.
Thank you. Latrice McClendon.
Yes, I think that there should be a zero tolerance policy on harassment and discrimination, right? And I believe strongly that education is also important, not just for our students and parents, but also for our staff who are in the school interacting with our students. We need to make sure they have opportunities to learn about the diversity and different types of people so that they can appropriately manage, they can properly manage any issues that may come up. But I believe that we should have a zero tolerance around harassment and discrimination. Thank you.
Thank you. Aaliyah Moore.
Yes, can you hear me? Okay, thank you. I do believe that all employees, all district employees should go over a training in how to put your personal beliefs as well as, whether it be religion or through sex, but have to teach you how to put that to the side and actually just focus on the students learning. And then also this district, along with the board, could create different forums that are specifically inviting certain groups out so that they can be heard and come together. But I think it needs to be visited in policy as well. And the district created an SPEC-RESPEC model. And so they can kind of coordinate that model into making sure that these students are not discriminated against.
Thank you. Angelique Peterson Mayberry.
Thank you. So the district does have a zero tolerance policy, but I think it's more about accountability when that policy is not being followed. Coming from, you know, the corporate space of working in automotive, I'm a diversity, equity, inclusion officer, and a lot of times there's a lack of education. So once you teach people, now you have to hold people accountable. They cannot use the excuse that they didn't know anymore. For some, this is a new conversation. And so young people should be able, and the alike should be able to bring their whole selves to school. They come to learn. So bring your whole self to school and not be treated differently simply because you don't look like or have the same preference as somebody else. But when that doesn't happen, there are consequences for that.
Thank you. That is time. Iris Taylor.
I think our cultural transformation has to be sure that being inclusive is one of the priorities. And that is at all levels, and clearly being transparent and being accountable for the policies that the board has set forth, and with the expectation and the respect that should occur on a daily basis. And every student should have an opportunity every day to thrive. And that's what we have to ensure.
Thank you. My Joy has the next question.
This question is from Pamela. How will the district handle the funding gaps that will resurface once the COVID relief dollars run out in the next year or two? We'll start with Iris Taylor.
We do not have equitable funding in the state of Michigan. And so the per pupil funding that we have does not take in account the specific needs of the population for which they are funding. So we have to lobby for policy changes legislatively to improve overall funding for school in the first place. And in addition to that, we'll have to look for some of our community partners to also step up and say, here are certain gaps that we will permanently, not just today, but will permanently, or at least over the next 20 years, sort of help to try to fill that gap.
Thank you. Next, Angelique Peterson Mayberry.
So my internet went off for a second. My Joy, can you repeat the question, please?
Yes, the question was from Pamela. How will the district handle the funding gaps that will resurface once the COVID relief dollars run out in the next year or two?
Okay, thank you. So I think Dr. Taylor started going in the exact same direction where I was going. We know that when we advocate, things change. We stood collectively together to advocate for an elected school board again, post-emergency management, and we have one. And so I think that understanding that, one, people understand what we were able to do with the dollars that we had. But we know that our district has a larger number of special education students, which requires almost double what it requires to educate. And so when you think about right now, not being funded for that, so you are pulling funding from your general fund to educate those young people. This is something that has to happen at the state level. It's beyond what the city and the district can actually do.
Thank you. Leah Moore.
Yes, I am just a stakeholder, but I attend meetings with the board every month. I am not sure what this board is currently doing to advocate, because that will be a proactive moment. We do not need to wait until this money is gone, because it is pretty much gone. 700 million of it is sitting in the sky for the next 20 years. And I have not heard this district talk about a plan B. When partnering with as many local businesses as possible and creating a space where we can.
Thank you. Latrice McClendon.
Yeah, so, just to get to the point, I think it's going to take time for us to advocate and really get equitable funding here in our city, and there is going to be a gap. And I think that we need to work with our business communities. There are a lot of businesses and corporations who get tax breaks, who have a philanthropic goal. And I think that our schools should be partnering or these organizations should be partnering with our schools to provide resources and maybe even some community benefit plans there. So thank you.
Ridgely Hudson.
Yes, so as stated before, advocating is the most important thing as a student, as a staff member, and then as one that's in the community, going to state legislator, going to even on a national level to advocate for equitable funding, which I have done where the governor has just made the largest investment plan in public K through 12 education. So it's all about advocating beyond just the title. It doesn't take a title to serve, and then noticing that the people in the power of the people is far more stronger and greater than the people in power. So letting them know that we hired you to make decisions on behalf of us, the people, and being sure to hold them accountable for it. Thank you.
Bessie Harris.
Yes, equitable funding is a must, and we must lobby from our stakeholders because Detroit is only as good as its school district, and we've got to lobby for our school district.
Okay, next we'll have panelist Regina Ann Campbell.
No, I agree with what everyone has stated, definitely advocacy at the state level for more dollars. And I also agree leveraging other partnerships and relationships to be accountable for other type of investment into our schools across the district.
Thank you. And then lastly, Monique Bryant.
Yes, I agree with the advocacy part of it. I also realize that 50,000 of our school-age children in Detroit are attending schools that are not DPSCD. So those funds are missing within our district. I also can tell you that there are plenty of organizations and individuals that would love to provide resources in this district. But what we have to do is look at our policies that restrict them, restrict the funds that they wish to use to support school opportunities for students. And that should happen sooner than later.
Thank you. The next question from the audience is from Twanu. For those of you who are currently or previously on the board, if you were not able to raise the school standards to an appropriate level, why should we give you another chance? For those with no previous experience, how will you be more effective than previous members? We'll start with Monique Bryant.
Well, I'm already doing the work that should be done every day. Advocating, volunteering, raising funds, providing resources and opportunities, and being engaged with the community.
Okay, sorry. I think the last 5-10 seconds was blurb. If you'd like to finish, being engaged with who?
I'm already being engaged with the community, establishing networks and networking opportunities. So the same things that you should have bringing to the board is what I've been doing the last 5 years in this district.
Thank you. Regina Ann.
So I haven't been on this Detroit Public School Community Board, but I have been on Hamilton Elementary School Board. I've been on other boards, both my professional, personal experience between teaching and being in the community. I can do the job. I'm also I'm not a politician. I'm not looking to be a politician. I'm very intentional around funding, watching where the money is and accountability, and making sure that I reach deliverables. I'm always about accountability and reaching goals. And so my knowledge and experiences can add some value to the board and hold us all accountable.
Thank you. Bessie Harris.
As I stated earlier, being approachable, being visible, going out to the schools, letting people see me in the community, letting them build that, as one candidate said, that feeling of trustworthy. You have to be trustworthy. And so being visible and approachable in the schools, in the community, I think is a good start. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Ridgely Hudson.
Yes, bringing experience and also bringing engagement to the board. providing transparency, accountability, as well as accessibility to every stakeholder in the community, which I have had some experience as a student, as a staff member, also as a minister of the gospel, being involved in the faith-based community, as well as one that has sat on several boards and organizations across the state of Michigan. So being able to bridge those gaps and to bring everyone to the table to provide the best for all of our student staff and community. And so I'm willing to do that, and I'm willing to bring that to the table. Thank you.
Thank you. Latrice McClendon, same.
Yes, so listen, I'm a parent with real stake in the game. I have 3 children who actually attend DPSCD, right? This is not a game, this is real life. And if our schools fail, then my children fail, right? I feel like there needs to be a parent's perspective, and I can bring that. Someone who steps into school every day, who understands what our children are actually going through. Secondly, in my day job, I run a $1 billion community strategy. I understand what it's like to look at all those zeros. When we talk about funding, it's important that we have somebody that understands the accountability and working with that much money to ensure that we're putting the money in the right place. And lastly, I just want to say, check everyone's track record. I have been involved in getting millions of dollars to our students in Detroit, and also putting STEM labs in schools. Thank you. I'll stop talking. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Aaliyah Moore.
Yes, I am a parent first, but if I am elected to this board, I will bring parents, I will bring teachers, and I will bring students, because I'm already quite active in all those areas. And then again, I do attend 4 board meetings a month. So I do hear the conversations and engagement from the board and Dr. Vitti. And I also feel as a stakeholder, I have been disrespected from the floor. So I want to have that opportunity to sit at the table with and given respect.
Thank you. Angelique Peterson, maybe.
Thank you again. I know this is the last question, so thanks again for hosting this. And, you know, I just want I want you to walk away knowing that there are partnerships. There are hundreds of partnerships that the district has with the external community, and that's because they've been able to see something different. They've seen transformative work begun. They've seen funds earmarked for exactly what they said they were going to do. And so they're investing back in the school district. And so we've seen evidence of that. We know COVID put us at a standstill, but we can't keep using it as an excuse as we turn the corner. Get back to the work of reading, writing, arithmetic, and learning beyond our classrooms. And what does that look like? Whether you sit on the board or not, if you have resources, you should be bringing them, because at the end of the day, the students are the benefactors. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Iris Taylor.
I have skill sets of an administrator and a leader. I have sat on many community boards, and I have ran a more than a $4 billion operation. And I believe that these skills are critical in staying focused and being goal oriented. And our most important thing is that we have to stay focused on the reform. We have to have clear strategies and be accountable and transparent and engaging and supporting to do that, so that every child, every day, in every classroom has an opportunity to thrive and access to a great public education. And I believe I have the skill sets to help facilitate the resources necessary to make that happen.
Thank you. Thank you. That was our last questions. We want to thank all of the candidates who joined us for both panels and helped us to learn so much more about them. And we want to thank the audience that joined us and provided us with such great questions to ask them. I also want to thank my Joy Reid Nash for joining me. You can look forward to coverage of this forum on Chalkbeat tomorrow. Look out for that. Chalkbeat has also created a candidate guide for the DPSCD school board race that's available on their website, detroit.chalkbeat.org and on WDET.org. So thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. And just don't forget to vote November 8th.